Good morning, guys. I've been offline for a few days. For those of you who caught me on Saturday, you know I've had some tragedies in the family. My mother-in-law passed away last Thursday. I talked a little bit about that. She was a big supporter of my writing. She will be missed. It was not unexpected. She lived a good life. She was 86 when she passed. I see Morgan's here. Hi, Morgan. So I'm trying to get back on track now. You know, those things tend to disrupt your life quite a bit, but everybody's back to work today and ready to do my almost daily update. So, guys, give Morgan a follow there. She does these posts too. She's more on the editing side of things, whereas I tend to just wander all over the place. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm talking. For those who know me, know that I am a Christian. And I actually started out with the American Christian Fiction Writers, ACFW, on my path to being published. Oh good, we got another fiction writer on. And I write fiction as well. And it's been a tough go, especially since I decided to do most of my writing as an independent author instead of going through publishers. Because in the Christian market, they have some pretty stringent guidelines. The bees are after me. Sorry, I'm gonna get out of here. They have some pretty stringent guidelines to keep you on track. But when you indie publish, you can pretty much do whatever you want. And though I still consider myself a Christian author, I don't follow the strict guidelines. I don't get preachy, as they say in my novels. But I still try to spread that message of light. Is what my intentions are, and I don't have the coming to Jesus moment in my novels, as they call it. But like I said, I do try to spread that light, and you know, it doesn't take much of a quick surf around Periscope or any other site to find out that there is a lot of darkness in this world, and it is upsetting. What I see going on out there, it's frightening, and you know, without sounding like an old guy, I cannot see any other answer but this generation's just growing up in this world of darkness, where it is all about self-pleasure and seeking financial rewards or what have you, without loving one another. The gospel clearly states that you know, Jesus gave us 2 commandments. One of them was to love one another, and I don't see a whole lot of that going on anymore. As writers, or as any artist, I feel we have an obligation not to just expose how we see the world, what is going on in the world around us, but also to offer a way out of it, to offer a bit of light in the darkness. And I think a lot of writers, especially, there's so much writing going on. I mean, with the onset of indie writing, it's become very easy for a lot of writers to get into the game, and the temptation, as always, is to write toward the money, to where we can make the best profit, find the most readers, and unfortunately that tends to be writing toward the darkness. I mean, my goodness, there's such a thing as dino erotica out there. Guys, seriously, this is what we're up against, and they will always outsell us. Unfortunately, I have no illusions that these things are going to turn around and people will suddenly realize the error of their ways and come back to you know, sharing the light and loving one another, and you know, and writing about you know, good things. But we can't just lay down and let the fight be over either. We, you know, at least in America, we are certainly not persecuted for our beliefs. But I don't think any of us will argue that we are somewhat ridiculed, somewhat shunned in certain circles, especially among the arts community. You know, I go on Periscope here and you watch a couple of any number of pastors or just lay people on here right now trying to share the good news, and watch the comments coming in. God bless them, they stand right up against it, but the hatred is real. There is just a desire, I think, by the majority of the world now to squash any references to religion, and especially Christianity. And shame on us, because sometimes we don't have the energy or maybe even the courage, or just don't want to deal with the mess. We don't want to stand up against it. And it does suck to be here trying to share love and have all kinds of hate come at you. But come on, guys, Jesus did it, died when he was 33 years old for his efforts, and he promised us no better life. None of the disciples certainly saw a better life. Morgan says maybe because just a pervasive hardness of the heart, but we can help soften them. And yeah, that's all we can hope to do, really. I mean, we have kind of a tough job, because we want to share this love, but we don't want to come across as fire-breathing preachers either. We don't want to scare people into heaven, right, as they say. But we can share this love, and we can, especially through our writing, and we will get the hundreds and hundreds of people who shoot hate at us. But somewhere out there, there's somebody who's going to listen to us. They're going to listen to our testimony. Our own children certainly did, for those of us who have kids. So it's not a lost cause. We're not gonna convince the whole world, but we are going to find a few. And that's all that Christ asks of us, is to preach the good news. And what did he tell the disciples? If they don't listen, you shake the dust off and you move on. We don't have to have perfect knowledge of the Bible, thank goodness, because I've actually read it all the way through, which I don't recommend you try to do cover to cover, because it wasn't meant to be read that way, but I have actually read it all the way through, and I still do study it. But Lord, if I have to go up face to face with somebody and argue a case, I'd trip all over myself. I'm not a debater. I'm not somebody who can do that. It is hard to keep that in mind. Kenzel. But because we live in a culture where we're almost brought up to be offended, right? We have to defend ourselves whenever somebody attacks us. We're not, the society in which we live sees you as weak if you simply turn away from an argument. But we simply don't have time to take up an argument with every individual who wants to attack our faith. There are billions of people in this world, and I honestly believe that time is short. Whether you consider a short time 2 years or another 1,000, time is short. And we have to share what we know with anybody who's willing to listen. For every one person who is willing to listen. Oh, thank you, Pam. Yeah, so Pam knows what I'm talking about. My first book, Now I Knew You, I didn't come out. I'm gonna try not to spoil it for you, Pam. I wanted to get my readers to think, especially teenagers who are in that situation, that when they make a decision like that, it is not just affecting them, it's affecting people around them, and it's affecting it's affecting their future. We live in a society that lives for the moment. We want to make decisions that make our lives better right now, without looking even ahead 1 year, 2 years, certainly not 20 years. And often those rash decisions, especially when it comes to issues like abortion, are made for the now. And they're not looking at the distant future and how that's going to affect not just the other people around them, but themselves. They don't realize that they are actually stripping themselves of that joy that they could otherwise have. Exactly, Kenzel. I mean, Because we live in the fast food society, right? You walk up to the counter and you got 5 choices, you know, meal number 1 through 6, and you make that decision now, and that's how we view everything. Nothing is thought through. We never seek wise counsel, do we? When was the last time we asked for anybody's opinion on a major decision we were about to make? Certainly not someone older than us, because what do they know, right? I still have a hard time getting my kids to do it, and they're 19 and 21 now. Exactly. The instant gratification is not God's way. Even for a non-believer, they would have to admit that short-sightedness is often unhealthy, and God did not come up with these rules that He handed down to us just because He's a taskmaster and He wants us to follow rules. He gave us rules because He knew that our lives, the way we were created, our lives will be enhanced if we were to follow, certain guidelines. And every time we step outside of those guidelines, disaster happens. I'm sure I'm not the only one who comes from a fairly well-off middle-class family who has watched, the younger members of that family just fall away one by one and get involved in all manner of, drugs, alcohol, you name it, and just lose it. This is not something that affects just the poorer among us. It's affecting all of us now, and I see that as the normal. It's almost you almost expect it anymore, and we shouldn't expect it. We should stand up against it. And that was the topic of this conversation that I started with, is that as writers, we have a choice. We can either share the light, or we can help spread the darkness. There are a lot of writers out there helping to spread the darkness. And I know it's very difficult to share that light. Right, Kenzel. If we see it generation after generation, don't we? It is handed down. I've got in my family right now. I have 4 generations right now where it just slowly started to erode, and they're one child after the other in that line just got worse than the one previous to it, and to the point where now they expect only to be taken care of by somebody else because they don't know how to take care of themselves anymore. And again, I think that every family is seeing that now. But again, we can share the light through our writing, or help spread the darkness. Those are the 2 choices. For a fiction writer, it's a little tougher, because especially if you're, which is why the Christian market for years was nothing but romance. You had 2 choices: romance or Amish romance. And the reason was simple, because it was very easy to stick to scripture that way. It was very easy to follow the, not offend anybody. And I think that's one area we're getting better at. Even in the traditional publishing, they're allowing more genres to sneak in, even such things as Amish vampires in space. I haven't read it, but I stood up and cheered when I saw he published it. And another friend of mine has published some vampire novels, with vampires. He asked the question, can a vampire find salvation? So, there are people out there taking those steps, and that's what I'm trying to do. If you're reading Now I Knew You, you're going to find I'm going to drift off more into the paranormal after that one. And the next series I got coming up, it's going to have shapeshifters and all kinds of fun stuff going on. But there will always be that element of faith. If people are turning into vampires, it's because they abandoned faith and allowed a demon to possess them, which is the only way I see that it makes sense. It is obviously that can't really happen. I know it's not biblical, but it's a reflection on the world around us. And this is what artists do. We take something to represent what we see happening in the world. If I have demon-possessed people running around, it's because that's what I see happening to the world. We've abandoned the faith, and we're allowing the darkness to enter our minds. And that's a way. And if I could talk to Mr. Stoker and ask him about his original Dracula, I imagine he might say the same thing. Exactly right. I mean, that's when we